And hello, welcome to the Blazor Community Stand-Up. I'm John Galloway. I am your host today, and I'm joined by Javier Calvarro Nelson, and he's going to be showing off some exciting new things. What's new in Blazor for .NET 10 Preview 3? Welcome, Javier.
Hello, everyone.
Awesome. Okay, so it's as always, it's exciting to see everyone joining us from all around the world. This is super fun. Dan set up the community links for us today. I'll share my screen, and we've got just these two here. So we've got the download for, this is how you can download .NET 10. And so this, you can actually, there's a short URL for this too. It's like get.net/10. But so that is here. I've got all the banners going all at once. So that is that one. Now, Javier, you're going to be showing us stuff in Preview 3, which is not out quite yet, right?
Yep.
So this is a preview coming attractions thing, and then so this has been announced in the past. Here, I'll put us over on the right, so it's a little bit more readable. But oops. Getting out of practice already. I think I want that display. There we go. So I really like the ASP.NET team has put together this really clear roadmap. This is everything in progress on ASP.NET for .NET 10. Everything in purple that's checked off is done. And then everything else in green is underway. So I love this, being able to kind of click through and see exactly. And then for all of these, these are standard GitHub issues. You can click through and see exactly what is being worked on. So this is one I'm excited about, this declarative model. But you can read, and some of these go back for a little ways, right? So there we go. That's it for those community links. So I think we're ready to turn it over to you, Javier.
Awesome. So let's get started then.
All right, let me switch here. Oh, there's add the stage. There we go.
Awesome. So can you all see my screen?
Got it.
Awesome. So yeah, we're going to talk about a bit what is coming in Blazor in Preview 3. We've talked about in the past about some of these features, and we're going to see some of new features, and even some of them that are not coming in Preview 3, but that will come a bit later. So we're going to talk about declarative state persistent, which we showed the last time on the community stand-up. So that is now shipping in Preview 3 in a few days. We're going to talk about fingerprinting static web assets for standalone WebAssembly apps. We are going to talk about HTTP client response streaming, and about setting up the environment at build time for Blazor WebAssembly standalone apps. So let's start with the declarative component state. Essentially, Blazor has a way of transferring state from server pre-rendering into the interactive modes, whether it's WebAssembly or whether it's interactive server. But the model is kind of, to put it kind of in a nice way, not great. It requires a lot of boilerplate, and there's a lot of things that you need to figure out in order to do it. So one of the things that we want to do as part of .NET 10 is try and smooth out those rough edges on existing features that we have, and make them simpler to use and more intuitive. So declarative component state is an initial step towards this in one of these journeys that we have in .NET 10, which is doing improvements on the server story. So for persistent component state, today, this is the minimum code that you need to write to make it work. And we're going to see this in all its full glory. So there is a service which is persistent component state that you can inject in your component, and using that, you can try and retrieve data from it, and you can try and persist data to it. So the idea is that when you are pre-rendering, you persist the data. When you are rendering interactive mode, you restore that data that was persisted, and that way you avoid having to fetch the data twice, and you avoid having flickering issues and things like that that happens when you do async work in the initial render in the initial interactive render after the server-side render. So with the new model, all this boilerplate essentially goes away, and you get a single attribute, supply parameter from persistent component state. It is a mouthful. It will not be this name, but if you've ever seen a recording of our API reviews, people like to discuss names a lot. So my policy is to choose a horrible name and discuss the name directly in the design meeting. That way I save myself the trouble of thinking about it and renaming it twice. So as I said, with the new model, it's just an attribute. You put it in a property, and then within your own initialize async, you use the null coalescing assignment operator to say, hey, if this was already populated, then do nothing. If not, then just fetch the data. And with that, let's kind of look at it in a demo. So where's my demo? My demo is here. Okay, so I have the final stage here for the demo, which I mentioned to you. Before we do that, let's try and kind of work backwards to what we had to do in the past. So we have to do here inject, and we have to do persistent component state, application state, and then we obviously didn't have this. And in here, we would do something like if no application state try take from JSON, forecast. And obviously, we need to give this a type, so forecast here. So if this wasn't set, then we would just do forecast here. And then we also, this only handled the part of restoring the state, but we also had to handle the persistence. So the persistence is something like application state, register on persisting, and then we have our task here, and this is application state, persist as JSON, forecast, and then our forecasts. And we need to return a task.
Quick question there. Like, so it's persist as JSON. Is it always going to be JSON, or is the idea with using persist as JSON that you may at some point persist in some other way?
Right now, we only do JSON, but the idea is that we'll in the future give you a buffer that you can write to, and you get to do your own serialization if you want to like use an alternative mechanism, or you want to do something that is not supported by us. So this is the minimum code that you have to write before dotnet 10, and this is actually not complete because this actually returns a subscription. And let's create private, this is persistent component state subscription. So we need to create this subscription, and if we look closely at this subscription, this implements iDisposable. So now we need to go here and say implements iDisposable, and then we need to go here and do public void dispose and do description.dispose. So you can see how much pain it is to like do this in the existing way. Not only you need to know how to write this code, which is not trivial, you need to keep track of the subscriptions so that like you unregister yourself if your component goes away or something like that. You need to figure out a unique key here to persist the state. It's a lot of code, and it's code that is not trivial to write. And with the new way, all this goes away. And here we just do and here supply from persisting component state. And yeah, like all these steps are just gone.
Wow. Okay.
So you don't have to figure out a key. We figure it out for you. You don't have to like subscribe. We subscribe for you. You don't have to like keep track of when the subscription is needs to be disposed, because we do it for you, because we know when your component gets removed from the page and disposed and so on. So what we can do is we can show this in action. So typically, if I were to just do this, let's do it this way for a second. I'm gonna run the app. I'm gonna put a breakpoint here. Where is my build? Okay, it's launching. It's taking a second to think.
Yeah.
Oh, it's because I ran it without debugging. I think it will work if I attach. Okay, so it's not there. Give me a second.
Oops. Oh, I think I lost him. Well, I'm not sure. Interesting. Okay. We'll add him back as soon as he's here. We have some good questions coming in, so please do keep your questions coming. There's one question here from KRSS. Is the roadmap always up to date? Don't see some issues that are in .NET 10 planning milestone. So that is the main tracking place for the roadmap. If you don't see things as they come in, ping on those, and like you can ask for updates. But my understanding is that is the main, like there isn't a secret, extra board. That is the roadmap. So, yeah, X button. Beautiful. We disposed Javier. Let me see. Anyone got any good jokes? One thing I will say, as we're as here, I'll open up Teams too, so I can see if he's trying to ping me. Nope. One thing is we also do have unboxing videos. So we did this with .NET 10 Preview 2. .NET 10 Preview 3 is due out any day now, and when it does come out, we will have an unboxing video. We've got some great demos lined up for that. So Javier will actually be back on that. We also have C# videos lined up. We've got like a lot of cool other demos. So if curious for people watching, if you've seen any of those unboxing videos. Wow, there's so much suspense. I gotta see if he attached to the process, what's happened. All right, let's see. Nice. All right. Yeah, thanks. Somebody on the Jose on the musical keyboard. I don't get on them as much as I'd like. The one, the big, the modular one is a Korg MS-10. It is cool, but it's got some noise in it. So when you turn the potentiometers, it crackles, which is a problem. I'll have to get it worked on. The other one is an FL key controller, controls FL Studio, which is pretty fun. Okay, we got Javier back. Good, because I was all out of knock jokes.
Awesome. Perfect. Don't know what happened there. The magic of the interweb.
I think you were just building suspense. You wanted everyone to, be very like they can't wait to see if the demo succeeds. All right, there
Exactly.
we go.
Okay, so we are good again. Okay, let me just like.
No. Now he's just playing with us. Beautiful. So part of the thing is this. There it is. Okay.
Okay, now I know exactly why like this died. Apparently, when I stop debugging, like it will close the StreamYard.
That's okay. So we're using a browser-based streaming solution. So it closed your browser, right?
Yeah. I don't remember doing this in the past. Okay, so let me just try and do something here. Let me try and switch to different like browser profile. Okay, let's do Chrome. I am hoping it doesn't close it again. It shouldn't. It would be like a very short demo.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are here. Okay, so we have Chrome here. So this is now from pre-rendering.
Mm-hmm.
And now if I just click continue, well, it does it immediately. Let me just add like a few seconds there. Okay, so StreamYard is still alive.
Yes.
It's super interesting because this has never happened to me in the past.
I've never seen that happen. Normally it pops open another browser instance when you, I think it's because you did start without debugging.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are here now. Why is it not? Oh, I know why. Oh, it's obviously because we have the feature on. That's why you don't see the flickering.
Oh, so it's automatically getting.
Yes, because the feature was on. That was my mistake. That's why it was not working because of a mistake on my part.
Okay.
Okay, so where is Chrome again? Yeah, so all this like browser dying on me and me losing the connection has thrown me off of the rails for a second.
You're just building up the suspense.
Yes, exactly.
I think people don't realize too, it's a lot harder to demo with pre-release bits. Like I've been helping to dog food some stuff that's going out soon. And it's like internal feeds and you know what I mean? Getting package restores and all that. It's a lot harder. And most of the time, if we do everything right, you never see that in the real world because everything just magically works.
Yep. And there is like all the like preview software that we get to debug.
That's true too. Yep. Okay, so there. Okay.
Okay, so now it's showing, and now when I F5, you see the loading pop up briefly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's essentially what the experience that you get today without persisting the state, and now.
So developers then will probably come up with their own sort of thing, like if you want to show loading, or if you know, like what you want to do as you're refreshing the data, right?
Yeah. So this data is only available during the first request, precisely so that if you are navigating from another page into this page, the data is not there when you navigate on the client, and that way you get to load it.
That makes sense.
So okay. It's about this transition from the server into the like interactive mode.
So that there have been several questions that came up. One that relates to is like, is this for Blazor server WebAssembly? You mentioned interactive mode. Like, which Blazor rendering modes does this apply to?
Okay, so I am going to try and explain the render mode soup.
Okay.
So we do have a static server-side rendering, also known as pre-rendering. Mm-hmm. And this is for transferring a state that you have on the server during pre-rendering into an interactive mode. So for simplicity, in WebAssemblies, it would be transferring state from the server to the browser and using that state from the browser. So you would avoid having to do a separate HTTP request to get the data after you've downloaded and bootstrapped WebAssembly. On interactive server, it's a bit of a bit strange because the data goes to the browser and then travels back to the server because we need to be able to serialize all the data during the initial render, so that we can, in case that we don't have capacity or anything on the server, we can just like restart. We don't have to keep that data in memory on the server for the app to work.
Okay. Sorry, did I cut you off, or were you?
No, go ahead.
Okay. We had a few other questions come in. Let me see. Will there be, so some of these are just kind of general roadmap-y kind of questions too. Will there be changes to the preloading feature to cause double load of resources?
So I'm not sure what they mean by preloading, because preloading has a very specific it's a very specific concept in terms of browser technologies. It's essentially telling the browser, please go ahead and load this resource ahead of time. If they refer to that, this feature is completely unrelated to it.
That's exactly what you're showing. Yeah. Okay, cool. Makes sense.
If it's about the existing problem that people have, where you render on the server first, all that information gets discarded, and then when you render interactive again, you need to do another query to load the data. This precisely tackles that.
That's
so we give you the ability now to much more easily than in the past capture the state after you've done rendering on the server, transfer it to the interactive mode so that you can reuse it. And it not only works for components, it also works for services. So you can annotate your services and you can register them. So there is a new extension method here that I was not showing, but we can do here. I'm gonna bump up the font a bit. Well, apparently I'm not, because something is not working. There is a method here that you can call that is add register persistent service. So if you register your service, then if your service has properties that are annotated in the same way as with supply from persistent component state, or whatever name we end up picking, that state will also be automatically restored on all the render modes that you choose.
Okay.
So if your app follows a pattern, for example, where you store all the state in a class, you can annotate the properties in that class with supply from persistent component state, and that data, the data that you put there during pre-rendering will be available within server and WebAssembly interactive modes.
Yeah. Okay. Let me see. Question here on. I think you've answered this as well, but if persistent state persists per component, or you can pass data between components similar to Flexor.
You can do something like that. So you could create a class that is your atom is called in this in this type of technologies, where that holds all the state for your app, and you can serialize that. You can put that in your dependency injection container. You can register it as a persistent service, and all your data will be available. You can choose to do it on a per component basis, or you can choose to do it in a more centralized way. In the same way, you can choose to do it at the bottom of your component, or you can choose to do it in one of your top level components, and that will also work. You have the flexibility to pick what you want to persist and what not. The point of all of this is that it's a progressive enhancement. The goal here is not to force you into doing all these annotations everywhere for everything to work, is to make it so that if you want to improve the experience for a certain set of components, then you can annotate those components and you'll get the improved experience. For some other things, you might not care, like your menu. Like if you don't care specifically about that, then just like don't annotate it. Yeah, I think that somewhat answers that question.
Okay.
Do we have more questions, or do we go to the next demo?
A few more questions. I'll try and make them quick here. Quick one. Marina is asking, will this work with enhanced navigation?
There is an issue for that, and the idea is that yes, but it's a bit trickier because for enhanced navigation, you'll have to opt in into that data, into receiving updates, sort of speak. Because if you have an application that is using enhanced navigation, you need to decide when you do a navigation, if some new data comes from the server, if you want to keep the existing data that you have in your component that is actually rendered on the page, if the component is still going to be there, or if you want to replace that data. And there's an example for both cases. So if you are editing a form and you click on a button and you do a navigation, you might not want the data from that form to just be overridden by new data that comes from the server.
Right.
On the contrary, if you are fetching like pages from the weather forecast page, for example, if you click on the next page, you probably want to be able to receive that data in your interactive component on a new navigation. And there's a reason for it, which is if you're doing that, you save yourself having to write an API.
Yeah.
Because the data comes from the server automatically via enhanced navigation. And it's your page ends up becoming your data endpoint, essentially. So there are cases for how do I say it? There are reasons to want those behaviors.
Exactly.
And you need to choose on a per case basis whether you want the data to be overridden or not. But yes, the plan is to support it.
Okay. One other question, Christian Nagel asking, persistent state is stored in the HTML of the page, correct? Could this be configured to use browser local storage?
The short answer is no, because the only thing that you have when you are rendering from the server is to write to the response. And there are there are headers, and there is the document body. We cannot access the headers for security reasons. The only thing that we can access is data that we write onto the body.
Okay. All right. I think I should let you get back to your demos.
Awesome. So going back to wonderful PowerPoint, the next thing that we're going to talk about real quick is fingerprinting for standalone WebAssembly applications. So in .NET 9, we did compression and fingerprinting for all the assets in your app with all the benefits that that brings you. So cache busting, immutable caching, reduce application size, and so on. And one of the things that we didn't do was a standalone WebAssembly because it was harder. In all the cases, in all the other cases, we are able to use the server to like apply the fingerprints and generate an import map on the fly on the root Razor page to set everything up. But obviously that's not possible in WebAssembly where you have only an index.html. So as part of .NET 10, we're also kind of like fixing that gap, and we are supporting rewrite. We rewrite your index.html to include an import map that we generate at build time, and we replace all the script tags that have certain placeholders to also automatically include the fingerprint. So that way you get cache busting for all the JavaScript assets end to end. So let me show you that. So I have an app here that I have set up. There is this write import map to HTML property that you set in your project to set it up. Is gonna be replaced by this new one, override HTML asset placeholders, because we are doing more rewriting of your index.html for other things. So we are adding preloading headers and things like that to speed up the application loading, even in standalone scenarios. And with that, on your index.html, you just need to put an import map script. And then within any script that you add onto the page that you want fingerprinted, you add this thing that we call a fingerprinted expression. And we, during build time, we process all these elements and replace them. I think it also works for styles. Let's try if it works for styles. Well, I don't think it's going to work for styles, actually, so let's not try it. Okay, so if I run the app, so the important thing about this feature is that we are now fingerprinting everything from the root of the document to like the last bit of JavaScript. So even if you deploy somewhere where you don't have control of the server, GitHub pages or something like that, whenever you deploy a new version, you're not going to find yourself in a situation where you are loading cache assets, which was a common problem in the past. So let me open the DevTools here. Let me see where this. Oh, I think it has opened
another browser or something.
No? Yeah, it has open Edge. Okay, I'm gonna close. I'm gonna stop debugging.
Okay.
If this is the last thing I say to you, it was nice meeting you.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Okay, no, it didn't kill it this time. Okay, let me just like real quick go to like Chrome here. Okay, so now it's loading, perfect. Okay, so I am going to go here to like the network. Sorry, I'm going to go here to the network, do like a refresh. So this is loading, and you can see now here Blazor WebAssembly with a fingerprint. You can see .NET. You can see this .NET put.js file, which if you remember Blazor from the past, it has a .NET boot JSON file. So we've changed that JSON file for a script so that we can like apply an import map to it and like benefit from all the caching and all that type of stuff. If you are brave enough to use a web bundler, the JavaScript file is something that the bundler understands much more natively than the JSON file. So with this, essentially, you can see that from WebAssembly to like .NET, all the files are being fingerprinted directly. If I disable the cache, I think I need to clear the cache here. But if I do like a hard refresh, yeah, all the DLLs, everything is fingerprinted. So you get the reassurance that when you deploy a new version, there's not going to be any conflict with any cache version, which is, especially in a place where you don't control the headers, is incredibly hard to manage. And obviously, if you are deploying on ASP.NET, you get, well, we're in development, so we set up no caching headers. But if you are in production, you get all that like sweet immutable cache, which essentially means that whenever your customer comes the next time to visit the page, the browser doesn't even issue a request. So it's much faster to load everything up because it says like this, I already have this resource, so it can like streamline a lot the loading of the page.
So the ideal case is I don't even have to think of it as a developer. You're automatically creating these fingerprinted file names and then sending those browser tags, the e-tags, and setting the caching headers and everything. As long as the file doesn't change, it's stored local. The end user only has to download it one time and then surf from cache. But then if I change the file, I want to make sure that the customer is going to get a new one. And because you've generated a new file name for that file, then from the browser's point of view, it's never seen that file before. And it automatically gets a new one.
Exactly.
Cool. Awesome. Okay. Yeah. So hopefully we got a question there. I don't understand. Hopefully what I just talked through, it sounds like we covered that's what fingerprinting is. So
yeah. So the main problem is that when you don't have control of your server, if someone visits your page and downloads an asset, the browser can, on the next visit, say, I'm not going to try and download this asset again. And this has happened to us in the past. We had issues where customers would upgrade from one version to another, and because one file was cached and they didn't control the like server because they were deploying to like some host that just was a host for static files. People didn't have a way of like get to a working app. You can tell customers go and do like a hard refresh, Control-Shift-R, but the average person doesn't know how to do that.
Yeah. Question here, Michael Bond asking, will this work for PWAs as well?
So it will work for PWAs in the sense that this is applied to the root document. PWAs, we haven't updated the support for PWAs in a while to take advantage of fingerprinting and other things. In the end, when you install a service worker, you get control over the network. So you don't have to worry about caching because you can do your own caching essentially, which is what the service worker does. So what this means is that, let's say you are hosted on GitHub Pages and GitHub Pages doesn't send you like an e-tag. Doesn't matter. If you have generated all this data and put it into your service worker, then you can do like a fetch with a fetch request and calculate the e-tag and so on.
Okay. All right. I don't know, a question here, like in a 24/7 application, is there a way to detect new version and reload it? I guess that would be on deploying a new file the next time that file is requested.
So you would potentially typically do that with a service worker. So if you have a service worker installed on the page, then every time that like a user like opens a new tab, the browser is going to automatically try and update the service worker. So when the service worker gets updated, you get a chance of claiming every existing app, and you could do restore. You could reload the existing apps and things like that. Then the normal way service workers work is that you only get the newer version when you visit the app again. You don't get the newer version when you are already existing, when you already have existing files.
Okay.
Okay, so this is fingerprinting. Then let me go back to the slides.
I'm excited about that as a feature because I have to do nothing essentially, right? I mean, there's those two things, the import map and the thing in the footer, but that's it, right? So
Yep.
that's cool.
So we also have other improvements, kind of on the smaller side. So on WebAssembly, we have now enabled response streaming by default. So this means that, for example, if you are downloading like a very large response, you don't have to like buffer all that response in memory. You can consume chunks of the response as they are coming down. And that helps a lot with the memory on WebAssembly applications. The other part is that the counterpart of this is that since we are doing streaming due to the nature of WebAssembly, synchronous operations on buffers are not possible. So reading synchronously and things like that from the buffer is not possible because they are not there. Mm-hmm. Then the other part is that, and the other thing that we've done is there was a way of setting up standalone the environment through a header for standalone Blazor WebAssembly application, and now that's something that we've moved into something that you do at build time, so that we can. So that you can set the environment directly when you are publishing or when you're doing something like that. So by default, during development, the environment is during build, the environment is development, and during publish, the environment is production by default. So with that, I want to do kind of like a bit of what's coming. So this is not on preview 3. This is on preview 4 and newer features. So we are we're making improvements to JS Interop
to
make
this slide full screen.
Yeah, sorry. We're making improvements to JS Interop. So being able to get and set properties, call constructors directly from JS Interop without you having to write a wrapper function for it. So this allows you, for example, if you have an object in JavaScript and you just need to set a property, you don't have to write the extra glue code in JavaScript to do it.
Awesome.
Yes, this was one of my pet peeves.
It's not much good, but it's just frustrating, right? So
yes, it's one of these like smaller cuts.
Yeah.
Then we're doing also a bunch of work to improve the alignment with ASP.NET Core. And what this means is looking at all the places where like we need to do things across render modes and trying to find a common way so that you can write the code once and work in a similar way of on all render modes. So, for example, we've added a not found, or we are adding a not found method to Navigation Manager so that you can trigger a 404 during server-side rendering, and on interactive scenarios, it will render the not found fragment on the router. We're also adding a not found page to the property to the router so that you can specify an actual page or component for displaying not found. And again, that goes with the idea that you can use that on the server, and the same code works on the interactive modes. We had a thing that we did in the past, which was throw an exception whenever you did a navigation during server-side rendering, and that was problematic because the debugger would break and people would think that their app was broken, and the app was not broken. The biggest problem for this was that if you put a try catch, you would catch this exception and then you would break the framework behavior. So we are doing work to getting rid of this exception and doing redirections on the server in a different way. This comes with a breaking change, and we have put an application compatibility switch there in case you want to kind of like get the old behaviors for some reason. But the goal here is to unify the way the app handles redirection across all three render modes. We're also adding support for the status code pages middleware. So this is also part of the like not found type of improvements. If you want to have like a global not found, that can now be a Razor page essentially with this feature. We did support in .NET 8 for error handling, and this kind of completes the other part of the picture. And the other thing that we are very excited for WebAssembly. So in the past, it has been incredibly hard, if not impossible, to collect traces, dumps, and things like that from WebAssembly. And well, it was barely impossible, or almost impossible. And what we have done now is we have done the work to be able to capture traces, and that's what I'm going to show you. So let me go ahead and like, I'm going to do this demo from the command line because I have a Franken build set up here. Let me make sure that like I have the right environment. Yes. So I'm running the app off the screen.
Okay. Not seeing it yet.
Yeah, it's for some reason it's taking a few seconds. Yeah, I think like things slow down quite a bit when presenting.
They do, which is frustrating. That's the one time you want your computer to go fast.
Exactly. Okay, so here we have an app. We have the counter component here, and then I can click it. Okay, and it works. So it's doing that not because there's a bug, it's because I changed the code to like for it to do more stuff. And I'm just so used to clicking it like hardcore.
Auto counter.
Okay. Yeah. So we go here and we see that like WebAssembly has been loaded. And now we have a magic method here to collect a trace. So what we're gonna do is like we're gonna do some work, and then we're gonna like tell it to collect. So in a few seconds, 10 seconds, what we're gonna see is that the browser is gonna pop up a download with our trace. So this is our trace, and then like we could like grab this trace and open it in Visual Studio and whatnot. I do have an existing trace so that I collected before, so I'm gonna show you with that one. Let me continue without code here. I'm moving this here. Let me see my command line here. Where is it? Here. trying to grab my trace and just like move it. I think it's this one. So I just like drag and drop the trace into Visual Studio, and Visual Studio is gonna do its thing. And I haven't shown what I've done in the app, so let me also do that for like completeness. So I'm gonna open it here in code. So this is my counter in Visual Studio Code. It just like iterates a bunch and like triggers a few renders every time that you click, so that like we can see the app do some work. But you can see now that like everything is loaded into Visual Studio. I think this might not be the one. Where is it? I'm trying to find. Yeah, this is not the trace. I think, yeah, this is not trace. Let me see. Yeah, no. So let me just grab the other trace real quick so that I can show you. Oh, yes, this is.
A thing you're showing here, though, the trace is a file, so you could share this with a teammate. You could like get help from it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's precisely it. So
you could even attach it to an issue or something, right?
Yep. So if we click here, open details, and we go here to functions, I'm trying to find, oh, I know how to find it. Yeah, demo client. Okay, so you can see here our increment count and our increment count core, which are the methods that I just showed you within Visual Studio Code here, so you can see. And you can see here that they are taking like roughly 24% of the time. If you click, it will like yeah, if you click, it will load the source and everything, so that you kind of immediately get to where you're at. You can get the flame graph and all the stuff that you're used to like dive into this. If you are more of a perf view user, you can also do this on perf view. So you get the same data on perf view. And you get to do traces, you get to do counters, you get to do memory dumps.
So you're showing a simple example, but if I had something like a complex component or like something where I'm rendering something complicated or want to understand performance, why is this component updating slowly or something? This would be great to dive into that, right?
Yeah, so you could see, for example, that the component is like rendering too much because it's showing up on the profile, or you could see that there is a part of your component that is like running particularly slower and things like that.
Okay. So in this case, it wrote out a file to download. How is that? What caused that to happen? Like, how would I use this as a developer?
So we are trying to figure out the like end-to-end experience right now. Obviously, what I showed you is kind of an initial step. Even if we don't do anything else, you have a way of like getting this data, which is the most important thing.
Okay.
Just being able to open the dev tools, running some code and like capturing the data is honestly like 90% of the work. If we can do it nicely in Visual Studio in a way that like you can profile and things like that from there, that's great. And hopefully we can do that in the future. But the first and hardest part was to like get all this working and all this done, because one of the things that you need to realize is that the WebAssembly runtime and environment is very different than any other like runtime. So I know that the developer working on this like had to go through like lots and lots of hoops to like get this working, and it's definitely not an easy feat to accomplish. So yeah, in the past you kind of were like flying blind. You can still kind of code is code, so you can go and grab it and like run it somewhere else, but the performance characteristics are not the same when you're running on WebAssembly versus when you're running natively on the machine or on a mobile phone or something like that. And this kind of gives you information that is like from the environment that you're running on, which is hopefully more accurate. Similarly with capturing a memory dump and things like that, just being able to like see all the allocations that are part of your app is super useful when your WebAssembly app is crashing for some reason.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Okay. That was a ton of stuff.
Yes. So this was a sneak peek of what's coming, and yeah, I think that's it.
I had one question that came up during the previous thing about fingerprinting, but I just want to check on this one. This person is saying they ported from .NET 8 to 9 and use of map static files feature and replacement use static files saw 10 times memory usage. Is there anything, I don't know, is there anything going on with that as far as map static files?
I don't know. I would actually have to look into it. It's obviously it works differently because it kind of computes all the information during compile time. But even if you get more memory, it's on uppercase basis, whether that's a problem or not.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, there are ways. So that in any case, the way map static assets is designed is that there are ways for you to trim the set of files that you include as the static asset endpoints. And if you have, for example, 1 million files or something like that on your app, you can still serve those quote unquote lazily with use static files. You just don't get the benefits of compression and things like that.
Okay.
But yeah.
So if someone is wanting to balance out and they want to simplify like their build, they can just kind of trim down which files or select which files are mapped. Okay, cool. Wow. Okay. Well, that was a ton of stuff. And then I think I mentioned we've got the unboxing thing coming up later this week, so I think you'll be showing us a quick version of some of those when .NET 10 and 3 actually ships. So
yes,
cool.
Hopefully without crashing the browser.
Right. Okay, so I guess the one other thing is, as you know, if people have questions, comments, whatever, the best thing that people can do is keep up with that roadmap and follow along those issues there, right?
Yep.
So, okay. Wow. Well, that was a lot of stuff. Thanks so much, Javier.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Cool. All right. Let me find the thing and I'll play the thanks for watching. Thanks, folks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.